back in 2006, together with the producer and multi-instrumentalist, so-called, from Montreal, we formed a group with Fred Wesley, the great architect of funk. Well, you heard his piece at the end of the program. And Abraham Incorporated, to bring together Jewish and black music. And to do it, not by like saying, oh, it's sort of like mediocre funk with a little Jewish flavor, or mediocre Jewish music with a little funk flavor, but we really went at it to make what Fred called blendation, and it was so much fun. And when we started to play together, we sat in a room and we started to jam, and we were kind of like on a first date and very, very shy. Fred Wesley, this legend, we had grown up with. And then Fred just looked at So-Called. He said, give me a beat. And then So-Called hit a beat. Fred started playing. I started jamming with Fred. And we had chemistry. And then we knew the project was going to work. It wasn't like a record producer putting three people together and saying, oh, let's see what happens. We had real chemistry, human chemistry. And that's the joy. And when we jammed, and then Fred took some notes. The next day, we convened a whole band, a whole horn section, rhythm section, and that project was born. Fred fleshed out the arrangements in one night, and so it was an amazing experience. And so a journalist was talking to me recently, and he said, yeah, so Abraham Incorporated was kind of the prototype for this project. And I said, yeah, in a way it was. And certainly my involvement and just, I heard Sidney Bechet when I was 11 years old, and I said, this is it. This man is talking to me. He's like my grandfather, giving me the most valuable lesson I could ever learn. So that connection of being culturally Jewish and feeling black music in a deep way from a very early age has, just made it so incredible for me to be part of this project.